So welcome to our first public meeting for VHS. These meetings are all going to be recorded. I'm hoping that more people will continue to grow and join us as time moves forward. There's not a lot of ceremony. This is supposed to be a discussion, get things done type of meeting. Very bullet point and action item oriented, typically, depending on how people want to use it as they get involved. The important thing is that this is a community meeting, and so it will include any and everyone who wants to be involved. All right. There, I've said that.
Ready, break.
Okay, good. That's done. We're good. We'll formally state that we have a code of conduct. It is defined in the GitHub repo, and if you want to read up on it, please go do so. We are using contributor covenant for our code of conduct. Typically, we start these meetings with new attendee introductions, which is currently everyone, because this is our first meeting. So we will say for posterity who we are, because these meetings are being recorded, they'll be put up on YouTube. And I'll start. I am Noah Abrahams. I am the open source advocate for StormForge, and I am trying to help move this project forward with as much community contribution as I can muster. Who's next? Steph, you're next.
I'm Steph. I'm a product manager at StormForge, and I'm here to listen and learn from the community.
I'm Zach. I am a software engineer at StormForge, and I am mostly dedicated to VHS, both internally and in the open source community, in terms of my job at least.
Okay, I continue. Hi, my name is Stefan. I'm a software engineer as well at StormForge, but currently focusing on load generating, so more interested in the general open sourcing and supporting VHS there, not necessarily in the tool itself at the moment yet.
I'm Brad. I'm an engineer on the controller side of things, what we use to facilitate experiments and part of our optimization platform. And excited about VHS.
Brad, where do you work?
I work at StormForge.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to be sure.
Well, we currently have a slight leaning for the corporate alignment of the people in this meeting, but we're hoping to fix that in the future as more people get involved. So going down the agenda, general purpose of these meetings, as I said, it is to be a community driver. We also want to generally talk about what people want to get out of the project and what directions they want to take it. And I think because we have a lot of StormForge people here, it is important to differentiate that this is for the open source project itself. This is not a StormForge internal business meeting. This is not for how StormForge is going to use this project. This is how for the project itself is going to evolve and grow as it gets more and more community adoption. So, next thing on the agenda, after we have stated all of those things, to talk about recent developments. So for the sake of posterity, Could some folks on the engineering side grace us with any major features, developments, and or interesting minor features and developments that have happened recently in the VHS world?
I can take that one. I think probably the two most interesting feature developments of late have been the incorporation of a simple HTTP replay functionality into the open source VHS repo. So you can now using only VHS, you can record HTTP traffic in one place and play it back in another place. There are a couple of limitations on how you play that back right now. Probably the highlight of those limitations are that you can only play back against a single IP address at the moment. So that could be a good place for someone to continue building if they're so interested. And then the other big development is the plugin architecture. Andrew Hare committed that end of last week, the first, I would say the first commit, the first alpha level feature for plugin development, which basically allows anybody in the community to write their own components for VHS and plug them into VHS as a compiled component. So they don't have to commit to the main repo and wait for us to review it and discuss it and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If they're really pumped, they can write something up according to the plugin interface and compile it themselves and plug it into a binary that's compiled from the repo. And that Andrew has a nice roadmap laid out of continuing support for plugins with a plugin development kit and support for multiple plugins and support for plugin metadata and signing and all kinds of other things to make that a first-class feature.
Awesome. I'm stoked about both of those. Any other features anybody else wants to bring up? Any interesting things that have happened recently? I'll take that as a no. So next part of the meeting, we want to look towards what we're going to accomplish in the future. We have a project board set up. I will load that up and share if I can get there quickly, which I should have done beforehand. We'll do this. Come on. Share my screen. There we go. So we have a project board under the rename this repo that I set up.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Oh, is it too big? Hold on.
Or too small?
Is that better?
Yeah, thank you very much.
So set up under the rename this repo, we have a project board that I've just been throwing random things in as they come up. All of the project formation stuff, like the contributing code of conduct, licensing, stuff like that, has all gone through here. I'm going to just go down the list and see if anybody wants to take ownership of any of these things. First and foremost is a conversation about semantic versioning, which I don't think we're at the point of a 010 or a 001, but we should be defining what we want the MVP to be to become version 001 or 010, or however we want to handle that. I've not done formal versioning of a full project from scratch in the past. Has anyone else done that before? Okay, that's lots of no's. So I'm going to say we need to have a discussion around what the MVP would look like and to decide whether we want to do which of those two versioning numbers we want to start with. We can start that now, or we can give it a week and let other folks think about it.
As in starting with like a V0 or V1?
Yeah. Any thoughts, or should we just give it a week to stew?
I mean, from my point of view, I'm fine with starting at V0 until we get up to something that we feel is GA, whatever that actually is.
That matches my gut feeling as well.
Sounds good.
So 0.0.1.
Probably 0.x.y, yeah.
Okay.
I think as we iterate through these early first MVP phases, just increment that minor version as we go. Bug fixes if we need to, but I expect it's largely going to be a lot of minor version bumps.
Yeah.
Do we have enough here to call it a minor version? To call it 0.1.0?
I think so. I mean, it's functional. It runs. There's limited support for languages, plugins, whatever. But I think that's fine for a 0.1 release.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Then we'll need to figure out what cutting a release is going to look like in terms of processing. Who's going to own it? Right now, it's everyone on this call. We don't have separate release teams. We don't have any of that other fun stuff. Just want to verify, is everyone on this call part of the GitHub org?
I think so.
Just pop over here and look.
Yep.
Okay. So, can we make notes on this? Semantic versioning. Version 0.1.0 ready to cut. Process to cut a release TBD. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. From a community standpoint, I figure once we get more people, we need to start discussing things like how are we going to organize things like these meetings? How are we going to organize the conversations? It's not really relevant now. We're not even going to fill this hour, but this is something to have on the radar as the project grows and as involvement grows. We're going to need to start thinking about the actual project organization. And that's a good chunk of these meetings typically. I realize for some of you, this may be your first public open source meeting, so I'm being extra verbose about these things. Tags for issues. I think this is a good place to discuss what good first issue looks like within the repo. Is it just going to be docs, or is it going to be, hey, we've opened up the plugins, now here's some plugins that we might need. And to go along with that, I think it would be beneficial for us to do, again, once we have more people, or perhaps as an invitation to get more people, to do something akin to a code base walkthrough, or even a here's how to write your first plugin session. I think both of those would be of value. Would anybody be interested in taking either of those?
I think we're still fleshing out internally what the whole plugin model looks like. So that probably be forthcoming of what that looks like, and getting a better idea of what integrations look like, and putting together this documentation of how to write your first plugin.
Okay. Click add. Maybe not. No.
You're not allowed to add that one.
Maybe because of the quotes.
Oh, maybe.
No, you have quotes in another issue. That cannot be the problem.
Oh,
It just didn't like the way I was refreshing my page because of this Mac mouse, which occasionally changes pages on me. Let's see the other stuff that we need to go through. So I think that's a good thing. We'll plan that in future meetings. Again, this is how do we want to get more people involved, and once they are here, how do we make sure that people are ramped up and capable within the project.
Mm-hmm.
Image build, which when I created this card like 2 months ago was something that wasn't really happening yet. Where are we with image builds right now? What are we doing? Where are we storing them?
I'm pretty sure this is done. Let me double check that, but we should be pushing them up to GitHub container registry for this. So
Okay.
if you look at the org level for packages, we have a VHS image there. It's on the bright side, it's a multi-arc image, so it can run on a number of different platforms. But the downside to that is we're using BuildKit under the covers to get that put together. And I feel like that adds a lot of complexity and fragility to the build process. So I don't know if we want to pull that out and instead swap in something like Go Releaser. But we still have at least this available for use.
Okay. So we can put something over here that's like revisit image build mechanism.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Awesome. And everything else that's left on here is for the renaming process. So I think everyone here knows that we are planning to rename VHS because it's really difficult to Google. And also the name is taken pretty much everywhere. So
and the org is pretty obvious that we need to rename this.
Yes, also that. We did do that on purpose. This is something that ideally I'd like to try and push this for some time near the end of the quarter, giving probably a couple of weeks for each of these bullet points. Oh, Andrew's waiting to get in. I see Andrew has joined us. I hope you weren't waiting too long.
Nope, no problem.
So we were just going through the project board, which for your edification, we'll just go through again real quick. We started with the idea that we're going to do SemVer. These are new. We started with the idea that we're going to do some SemVer. We're figuring that we're pretty much ready to cut a V010 release. We're going to figure out what that process is and who's going to own it and what that's going to look like. We want to get people ramped up. So related to these two, getting people onboarded and building community, we are going to potentially do some sort of code base walkthrough and probably a how to write your first plugin session in the not too distant future. Because the image builds, which was previously on this in this swim lane, is done. Brad brought up that we might want to revisit the mechanism that we're using to build the images. Great, something we can do. And then we're talking about renaming. I was saying that ideally we want the renaming to try and aim for sometime around the end of the quarter, which gives us a couple of weeks to do each of these. But I also want some more people involved. This should not be just Stormforge employees doing this. So in order, it's going to be gather the names for the renaming process. We'll do a couple weeks of polling. We'll do some ranked choice polling. Sibs has a system set up that we've used in the Kubernetes environment for a while. So that's that already exists. Then we just have to do the simple stuff, you know, completely move, rename the project space, rename all the links, rename the CLI, all that fun stuff. And I figured those are probably a couple weeks each. These could probably be done simultaneously. But really, we want to get to the start of this, I think, by April 1st. And not announce it on April 1st, because you should never announce anything on April 1st. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Then I'm going to stop sharing. And we're going to go back to the shared document. I'm going to put Andrew in attendance. Andrew, I don't think you're on the mailing list.
Oh, okay. I'll sign up for it.
That'll make sure that you have the invite and also give you access to the weekly minutes and this document, which will be all the agenda stuff.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to add some stuff in, or actually, Zach, could you please add the bullet points that you mentioned underneath recent developments in the document?
Sure, yes.
I'm going to make a couple notes on the project board stuff. For the purposes of the public project, we've got that project board that's more community and project oriented, but we don't really have a public roadmap. Is that something that we would want to create either additional tickets or the same board or a new board, or how would people like to handle public road mapping? I'll put that to all of you at large. Anybody?
I would expect that would be something we can discuss as soon as there are actually other people not from the company in here, right? I'm not sure how this works. Sorry.
That is, how do I want to describe this? One of the bullet points of working in public is that as much as possible, we want to take the project itself, the project's work, and have that be public. So anything that we're going to work on with respect to the project should be done publicly, should be recorded. That's why we're recording this meeting. That's why we have the meeting minutes. We're going to keep these public agendas so that anybody that wants to join the project can see what's happened in the past and to see where our ideas have gone. So having a public roadmap for here's some features we're adding is something that anyone who's going to get involved can look at and sort of at a glance have a good sense of the project. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So what goes onto the roadmap publicly is a whole separate conversation. I think until we have more people possibly just keeping everything we're doing in GitHub issues and PRs and saying, look, here's something I'm going to be working on. If you're going to be working on a feature, open an issue so that people know you're working on that feature, which I believe is in the contributors guide already. That's probably the best way to start until we have enough people that we really need to keep organized. But creating, like a GitHub project board, so we have some more Kanban style development or whatever the hell we're going to do, is something that we should keep an eye on, so that as the project grows, if we need to incorporate that we can do so easily. Comments, questions, recipes? Okay, cool. Open discussion and Q&A. We've reached the end of the official agenda for now. Ostensibly, there'll be a lot more to talk about as we have more contributors, and these meetings might get jam-packed. But as for right now, we've hit 28 minutes of actual meeting time. Anybody got anything to contribute? Anything to say? Want to do a dance? Okay, everybody, we're doing dances. Woo! All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This concludes our inaugural VHS meeting. Join us back next week, and we will talk more about open source. Yay! Bye, everybody.